Hello everyone, welcome back to another GIS mathematics lecture video. In this video I want to talk about radians. Now radians are maybe a little bit more uncomfortable to most people in terms of dealing with measuring angles, but in the long run they're usually a lot more useful. And what I want to do is I want to talk about what radians are conceptually. And then the next video, I want to relate degrees and radians, and so that hopefully you understand that conversion process so that you can sort of be flexible and think in both, because they are both useful. But for most applications, radians tends to come out as being more useful. So let's sort of think about what is a radian. Well, we can take that same definition, right, that we talked about with degrees of what happens when the initial side and terminal side are the same. Right, and this is kind of how we laid out that idea of degrees. That when the initial side and the terminal side were the same, we defined that as 360 degrees. We can do the same thing with radians. Right, so what we can do is we can define, right, this distance or this angle between the x-axis initial side going all the way around back to the x-axis is the terminal side. Right, we can define that as 2 pi. Okay, so hopefully you're with me so far. Now we're going to define this as 2 pi. So let's talk about what that looks like in terms of our quadrant angles, right? Just like what we did before. So let's start with our first angle here. So if we start at x as our initial side, and we go around to x-axis as our terminal side, right? We've just said this is 2 pi. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Now, let's go back through and talk about our quadrant angles. So what happens instead if we start here at the positive x-axis and we go to our first quadrant angle, which is the positive y-axis? Again, right, just like before, this is the same as saying going a quarter of the way around. So if we take 1/4 times 2 pi, right, a quarter of 2 is the same as a half, so we get 1/2 pi, or conversely, you could call that pi over 2. And again, this is radians, not degrees. So now let's take a look at the next, right, quadrant angle. So if we start here at the x-axis and we go around and around and around and we get to here, right, again, this is the same as going halfway around. So again, this would be pi radians, right, because 1/2 times 2 pi equals pi, right? The 2's cancel out. All right, so let's talk about our third quadrant angle. And again, if I'm going quickly, I apologize. I'm just sort of going through the same process we went through in the previous video. I'm just applying this definition of, I'm just applying this definition of 2 pi instead of 360 degrees. So let's talk about our third quadrant angle here. And that's assuming that we start at our initial side again, the x-axis, and we go all the way around here, and we stop at the negative y-axis. What is this saying? Right, this is 3 pi. This is the same as going 3/4 of the way around. I'm not doing anything special here. I'm just going from the x-axis to the different quadrant angles. And so what does this mean? Well, this is 3 over 4, right, 3/4, times 2 pi. This is 3/4 of 2 pi. So this would be the same as, right, if we do the multiplication here, this would be the same as saying 3 pi over 2 radians. So hopefully that makes sense. Again, if any of this was confusing, I strongly encourage you to reach out. But as always, reach out. Thank you.